Basically, what it says is that due to drone attacks, the airport,
of Khan.
which is where we are, is closed, and we've been here nobody knows how long,
It's been
and nobody knows when
everything.
we'll go back to normal. If you're watching this video, then I'm already in a more or less safe place. I have internet connection, and I can tell you what it's like to live through the war. Not just from the front line, but in general terms of how it can affect you. Even when you're thousands of kilometers away from that front line, it's an experience. Well, I don't know. Lately, I keep having experiences of this kind, which are a bit exhausting today. And I'm going to emphasize and underline this twice because this has nothing to do with how kind Russia is. And the bad thing is that it's Ukraine. Here we always talk about the Kiev regime, not Ukraine itself. But even so, today has been celebrated. Tonight, what is called the Independence Day of so-called Ukraine has begun. This is when I should laugh, but the truth is that this isn't really a laughing matter because obviously Ukraine doesn't have any independence. But precisely while political leaders have been traveling to Ukraine, those same political leaders have been sending things to Ukraine, as well as from other types of military organizations, for example, sending encouragement and celebrating that special day. Ukraine has been attacking the territory of the Russian Federation. Today they have been repelled. 95 drones that we know of in 14 regions of the Russian Federation. And it has been activated. What is the carpet plan? Many airports shut down as it has been our case, Republic of Tatarstan, Kazan Airport. And then the same danger and drone attack plan was also activated at other airports. The air defense of the Russian Federation, thank God, has worked very well, and as it seems, there have been no casualties or major damage. But you see, this is how Ukraine celebrates the day of its supposed independence. And above all, the reflection is, and I'll tell you the details of what happened right away, how absurd this is, because they really should already be trying to negotiate to stop this conflict, which really shouldn't have happened. And if the West hadn't interfered, if Ukraine hadn't let itself be influenced by that kind of interference, I'm going to make up the word foreign interference, or let's put it in a more elaborate way, then none of this would have been happening. Naturally, no one wants the war to go on. The thing is, this idea of Russia withdrawing its troops from Ukraine, we all know perfectly well that this is not going to stop the war because it's a war against the Russian Federation. And at a certain point, it has to face it either on its own territory or on the territory of another country. And you tell me, what would you choose? No matter which country it was on the international stage. That being said, have you seen those first images? And basically, because of this risk of drone attacks that Ukraine has been carrying out against the territory of the Russian Federation, and also many regions are quite far inland. The fact is, that's how she chose to celebrate a day that is supposed to be peaceful anyway. At one point, we arrived at the airport to finally go back to Donbass, which, well, is our home. It's not exactly a short trip. I mean, you have to get to Moscow first, and then you have to travel a lot of kilometers, which, well, is already complicated in itself because in most cases, the airports don't even work anymore because of the danger of drone attacks. There are many airports, especially in southern Russia, with one being the closest to the Donbass border, are not operating for obvious reasons. That being said, we arrived at the airport and saw that the plane was delayed. At first, I think it was just over an hour. Well, now with these attacks from Ukraine, it's actually quite common. However, this attack is unprecedented. According to what the woman told me, like some kind of children's area that's in the airport, which has been absolutely packed because we've had to sleep there. I've had to, well, between trying to calm him down and somehow trying to get him to sleep in my arms. Our 8-month-old son, it's heartbreaking when you live through a moment when everything is full of light and the little one can't sleep. There was no space left in the room. All the beds were taken by too many children, and I had to sleep. You can already see the images on the floor, I mean, basically on concrete. And well, the little one was sleeping above me, and then, well, that's it. A couple of hours, and the rest of the time we tried to calm him down, and above all, we carried him in our arms. Between my husband and me, well, especially my husband, who has worked miracles, he hasn't slept in the last 24 hours. I don't think even 30 seconds. It's overwhelming. To what extent? And while you're seeing it in the images, those screens with absolutely everything in red, they've been delaying one flight after another until they kept repeating to us all night that the airport was closed. So at that point, you could decide to go to a hotel. But the thing is, you never know when they're going to open the airport. So if you miss the flight, of course, the next flights are harder to book, because everyone is trying to leave by switching their tickets. There are no seats on any plane, so it could happen that you go to a hotel and then you come back and you have no chance of getting back. And of course, we have to continue our trip. We also have our little dog that we have to pick up. So basically, missing that flight was not an option. You don't know when it'll leave. We waited 16 hours. That's the longest I've ever waited, and I've traveled a lot. I've spent hours at the Istanbul airport, but this was the longest. 12 or so. Most importantly, it's not just 16 hours, but 16 hours with a small child and much uncertainty. You're not ready to spend those 16 hours there. Thank God in our minds, we somehow had a list of everything we needed for the little one. And we've actually managed pretty well with that. Here's a crucial point when you really travel. I've said this many times, but I hope this video helps someone avoid going through a situation like this, especially an unexpected one, because anything can happen with your luggage. Always carry the most urgent and essential things with you. You can change the baby, and several of these too. Sets of clothes for you, for the baby if you have one. That's really essential, I think. Baby food, well, food is less essential. Diapers, above all. You can buy the rest at the airport, but not every airport has the other things. Anyway, well, thank God we're okay. Thank God we were able to get out. I mean, it's something I had never experienced in my life. And it's not so much for me, because I don't really care if I get stuck at the airport. Well, I don't know. 16 hours, then 48, because after all, well, especially with my husband, you see, we have so much to do and discuss. But yes, we lost connection and we're basically cut off. Electronic warfare, of course, was repelling the attack, so the signal was being jammed. But with a child, I mean, really, I feel so much empathy. And in moments like that, you think about how unfair war is in general, don't you? Honestly, I empathize equally with mothers in Palestine and Ukraine. So civilians here get no empathy, unlike Donbass mothers. Of course, when they were being bombed and had to stay in basements from 2014 to 2022, some of them practically on a daily basis in episodes that were more or less short. And meanwhile, in the rest of Ukraine, well, nobody was paying attention to the matter. People were saying that one, that air conditioners were exploding there, and that there weren't any bombings at all, much less. They were laughing about the whole thing. I truly hope there are no wars in the world. I would be the first person to sign any kind of paper for that, right? And it might seem like from my social media. I'm encouraging the opposite, but actually it has nothing to do with it. If they didn't come with the same old war, NATO against the world, would I tell you? Up to the borders of the Russian Federation. None of this would be happening, and the first ones to be safe would be the Ukrainian mothers. Anyway, I'm going to leave it here for today. I hope that tomorrow we'll be getting back to our routine. Somehow this report has also ended up being almost military. Let's leave it at that, but I hope the day comes when no mother has to go through what happened tonight with her little one in her arms. Much less what happens, because of course there are much worse situations, like mothers, for example, in places like the Gaza Strip. I truly hope that one day there will be peace.